Hey, welcome to the Lead Up Podcast. I'm your host and publisher, Mike Harbour. This is episode 434. Really excited you're here because I know we have a major issue in the world today that you're probably really interested in if you're listening to this podcast. If you're a leader, we're going to talk to you about 3 keys to keep people you can't afford to lose. Now, here's what I know. As a leader, you're only as good as the team that you can put together and also engage, equip them to be the best, to perform at a high level. So in the Lead Up Podcast, we're going to give you tools and strategies and hopefully some inspiration to grow yourself, to grow your team, and to lead more effectively. Now, here's what I know. Today's episode is especially timely. Trust in the marketplace is at an all-time low. Trust in leaders is at an all-time low. And talent doesn't stick around by accident. Leadership can either be a magnet for top performers, or it could be the very reason they walk out the door. But here's the good news. Keeping your best people isn't a magic trick. It's not luck. It's about developing leadership, your leadership, that inspires, that engages, and empowers your team. So I want you to stay with me through this episode. I'm going to give you 3 keys, 3 things you can do to hopefully stop any turnover that you're experiencing, to begin to retain people and then create a culture that is going to make people want to stay. Now, I know you hear us talk about this a lot. In my book, Quit Losing Talent, the expanded edition, if you don't have a copy of that, go to Amazon and get a copy. But in my book, we talk about how to create these 20 leadership tactics, tools, practical things you can do to win people, meaning attract them to your team, to keep them so that they don't leave, and to inspire them to be great employees. So I'm going to give you 3 things today. Grab a pen and paper, take some notes. If you're a returning listener, you know that. Get your notes ready. I'm a teacher. If you're a first-time listener, hey, this is episode 434. You got a lot of catching up to do. But I just want you to tune in, listen, be ready to take some notes, and then go apply this at the end of this podcast today. I'll share some other ways where you can connect with us a little bit better. Let's talk about key number 1. It begins with you. Say that with me a minute. It begins with you. It begins with me. It begins with being a better leader. So the first key to keeping people that you can't afford to lose is to be a better leader. It sounds simple, right? I love the old quote by my friend, mentor, who I never met, unfortunately, but Jim Rohn, who I've learned a lot from over the years. He said, what is simple to do is also simple not to do. Being a better leader sounds simple. It's also simple not to do. It doesn't happen by accident. But how do you actually define leadership? How do you define your leadership? How do you develop leadership that motivates your team to stay and thrive? How do you do that? Here's a question for you to reflect on as we get started into this discussion. What is your definition of leadership? Look, there's no small number of leadership books out there. There's an infinite number. Just go type in Google leadership books and you'll come up with hundreds of thousands of them probably. I don't know what the number is. I've written 2 books that are leadership books, right? I've read hundreds of books about leadership and personal growth. And there are lots and lots of different definitions of leadership. One of my mentors is John Maxwell. I've been fortunate enough to spend a lot of time with John. And John defines leadership in one of his books as leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. And not to question John, because he's considered the number 1 leadership author ever around the world. But I think where that definition falls short is your influence positive or negative? Because leadership is influence, and even negative people can influence people. And that's, to me, maybe it is leadership, but I don't really look at that. I look at that as like negative influence. And so by that definition, it falls just a little short for me. And there's so many different definitions. I define my leadership like this. When I was made a leader, I wasn't given a crown. I was given the responsibility to bring out the best in others. Now that's a modified quote by someone named Jack Welch, who I've learned from his books, never met Jack. But that definition of leadership for me inspires me to get rid of my title, get rid of, lay my aggressiveness, my assertiveness aside, to take my crown off and see people as valuable, which I learned from John, like values-based leadership, see people as more valuable to me than me, and then bring out their best, like coach that up. And that's what I hope to do through my word on the Lead Up podcast, is inspire you into your full potential as a leader. And so it begins with you. It begins with your definition of leadership. It begins with you knowing what leadership is to you and what it isn't. Because if you don't have a definition of that, if you don't have values wrapped around that, in difficult situations and difficult circumstances, when you're questioned about your leadership, and when you're asked to do something that's out of alignment with that, if you don't have that defined, you may go a different direction. So great leadership is intentional. It begins with that definition of leadership. It creates environments where people feel valued, challenged, and aligned for a bigger purpose. You can't do any of those things without knowing what you stand for as a leader. John Quincy Adams once said, if your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, to become more, you are a leader. So how would you evaluate yourself against that definition or against that quote by John Quincy Adams? Do your actions inspire others to dream more? Do your actions inspire others to learn more? Do your actions inspire others to do more? Not because of fear, but because of your inspiration, your leadership, their desire to serve you because you've served them. Do your actions inspire others to become more? And how consistent are you in that? So think about your actions for a minute. If they don't line up with what John Quincy Adams is talking about here, maybe it's time to shift your approach, shift your focus. Maybe it's time to read a book. Maybe it's time to go out and look at different definitions of leadership. Maybe it's time to craft your own definition of leadership. When I'm working with teams of leaders, it's one of the first exercises I do with them is to help them craft a definition of leadership. Because I can give you the tools. I can give you the tactics, like I do in my book, Quit Losing Talent. But if you don't have a real leadership foundation, those tools are used as weapons. Those tactics are used as weapons to control people, not really lead people and create a culture that inspires them to be more. See, top performers, the people you can't afford to lose, they want three things from leaders, and that's what I'm going to share with you now. They want to know the answers to three critical questions. So this episode is all about helping you keep those people you can't afford to lose, those top performers. What do they want? Number one, they want a better boss. Number two, they want a brighter future. And third, they want a bigger vision. So let's talk about each one of those for a minute to help you really begin to step into these things in your leadership. What makes a better boss? Better bosses demonstrate care with a people-first mindset. They're engaged, they're fully present in the lives, in the results of their people. They're engaged in that performance with them. And better bosses set the bar for growth by growing your own competence. Remember, I said it begins with you, by growing your own competence as a leader. What we don't want to do in our leadership, and look, I've experienced this and I still experience it. It should challenge us to growth, but the Peter Principle says this: we'll rise to the level of our incompetence. So when you look around your influence that you have, your leadership that you have, has it plateaued? Has it stopped? Have you stopped being able to push people to that next level? Maybe you've tapped into your own level of capacity where therefore you need to grow. To be a better boss, you need to grow in your care for others. You need to grow in your people first mindset. These are all things that I've certainly had to develop and still am developing in my leadership. Learning to be engaged and fully present. And then learning to raise the bar for myself so that I'm able to raise the bar for others. I've got to raise my capacity for leadership so that I can inspire a new level of capacity for those that I lead. So the first is to be a better boss. I've given you 3 things you can do to be a better boss. The second is enabling a brighter future. What enables a brighter future? Well, champion growth for those that you lead. What is it that they dream about doing? What are their aspirations? Not your goals, but their goals. Do you know those? If I were visiting you and your team today and I went and talked to all the members on your team and I asked them, has Mike ever talked to you about your personal goals? Have you ever shared your personal goals with Mike? Would they tell me yes or would they tell me no? See, in order to champion growth, you've got to be fully engaged in their growth. When you help them become better, guess what? They'll help you become better. They'll serve you when you serve them. It's the law of reciprocation, the law of cause and effect, whatever you want to call it. So the second thing in enabling a brighter future is provide them challenges. Like so many leaders I work with, they get so focused on making sure their employees stay in their lane, only do their job. When some employees, especially your top performers, they want to be challenged, they want to grow. They don't want you to delegate your responsibility to them. That's not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about delegating your responsibility. We're talking about challenging them to lead a project, to try something new, to grow as a team builder, to lead a team meeting. There's things that you can do to provide them challenges, to help them get out of their comfort zone, to develop some skills that all leaders should be developing anyway. What are you afraid of to do that? The third thing is promote new opportunities. What does that look like? Maybe some cross-training. Maybe allowing one of your top performers to work in another department once in a while so they learn other things. They learn some skills from another area in the organization that they can't get where they're at. This helps them provide, this is what it's called, enabling a better future. It helps give them some hope that they're not just a slave to the 9-to-5 job that they get paid to do, but there's opportunity for growth. And then the third thing is empowering them toward a bigger vision. Empowering them toward a bigger vision. How do we do that? Let me share with you some thoughts. Create alignment by developing or harnessing this collective power of team. The most powerful thing you do as a leader is to create collaboration and harnessing those individual strengths into team power, teamwork. There's an old story of, one horse can pull 4,000 pounds, but if you put 2 horses together, they can pull 12,000 pounds. What about your team? Are you allowing them to work in silos of individuality? Or are you really pulling them together, helping them harness their individual strengths, creating collaboration, not confrontation? Look, I work with teams every day. I work with individuals every day that are caught in constant confrontation. What are you doing as a leader to build teamwork, to tie them into the values, to the purpose of the team? Foster that connection to a team dream. Like you can watch sports all day long, and the teams that are focused on a team dream play better together. They're the ones that win championships. And then celebrate that impact systematically, no matter how small. Celebrate the small wins with your team. These are 3 things you can do to begin to inspire this growth, to keep your top talent engaged and you be engaged as a leader. What we've talked about is being a better boss, creating a brighter future, inspiring them toward a big vision. I'm going to give you 2 more bonus things here. Tactical praise. Now, I've talked about this a lot on my podcast, but tactical praise is It's one of those simple things, again, that seems real simple when I teach it. Now, one of the reasons I want to shamelessly plug my book again is because I talk about toxic praise in my book, and I don't have time to teach that on this episode. But using tactical praise, it's the most underutilized leadership tool that you have. It's not enough to notice great work. How you praise your team members directly impacts their satisfaction, their feeling of value, their commitment to the team. Not all praise is created equal, though. Some of the forms of toxic praise I'll just cover quickly are vague praise, like, hey, great job. Very vague. Or celebratory praise, where it can erode creativity and agency. Too much celebration without depth or thought can undermine meaningful recognition. We need to be specific with our praise. We need to be specific with why we're celebrating. And then comparative praise is another form of this toxic praise where it kills teamwork because I'm praising your efforts but comparing you to someone else on the team. I create distrust, not only between that team member and the other team members, but between me and you, because now you may no longer trust my praise of you. Again, just utilizing tactical praise is important, but you need to be specific with it. Like, what are you celebrating? What are you praising them for? It needs to be timely. It needs to be personal. Not comparative, not celebrating just to celebrate, but tie it to the overall goal, right? And we could pay attention to attitude. That could be specific, like not just results, but praising things they can control and not just solely focused on things they can't. I can't always control customer satisfaction. Now, if I'm the only one interacting with that customer, sure. But what if that customer interacts with 10 other people besides me? Maybe I did a great job, someone else didn't, but they gave a poor review, and now I'm coupled in with giving poor customer service. But really, my attitude was great. I smiled. I treated them well. And so, but what I can control is my attitude, and you can praise that. What I can control is my effort, and you can praise that. What I can control is new strategies, creativity, innovation, and you can praise those specific things. So that's the bonus, one of the bonus items. The next bonus item that I want to give you is to stay in tune with your team. Like, if you really want to keep people, if you want to inspire people, if you want them to be more, do more, you need to stay in tune with your team. Here's the hard truth. People leave bad companies, but it's bad leaders that really drive them away. And so you need to stay connected with them. Keep your pulse on the individuals, keep your pulse on the team by asking the right questions, using these conversation starters that I'm going to share with you to create open lines of communication, strengthen trust, identify areas where you can support your employees better. We'll give you 4 questions here that I hope will add value to you today. And thank you for listening to the Lead Up Podcast. Here's question number 1. What's working or going smooth for you lately? So just a great question. What we don't want to do is what I call drive-by conversations or drive-by. Hey, how's everything going? You need anything from me? I'm just going to drive on by, right? I want you to connect with them. It's what I call a C-squared conversation. Connect with them, a connecting conversation. The second question, is there anything small but irritating at work that you'd like to see improved? Now, many leaders want to ask this because they're afraid that something will be shared that they can't fix. You don't have to fix everything. Sometimes they just need to listen. They need to let it get out. They need to know you'll follow up, because it may be something you can fix. But if you can't fix, you follow up, you go find out anyway, and then you close the loop. Hey, here's why we can't do anything about that right now. And don't blame your boss. Understand really why you can't. The third question is, how can I support you in any personal goals or big life changes coming up? This is a great question to connect with people, let them know you care, and where you can add value or cheer for them in other areas of their life. The fourth question is what challenges are you facing right now, and how can I help you tackle them? Lock arms with them. Be a leader. That's what leaders do. They bring out the best in people. And so lock arms with them and help them tackle. Maybe they're trying to buy a new home and they don't really understand financing. They don't understand interest rates. They don't understand how to get along. Like, you could be that leader to help them do that. It doesn't have to just be a work issue. Maybe you've got experience they don't have. When you ask these types of questions regularly, you send a clear message that your employees matter. And you create a safe space for honest feedback. They begin to trust you. Remember, retention doesn't start in the exit interview. It starts in these daily conversations that you have with them on a regular basis. You have to practice these C-squared conversations, though, that I mentioned. Create a habit, create a practice in your own leadership where you really connect with people. You get to know them and you lock them in. You lock them in. That becomes part of your strategy. When you provide connection and clarity and consistency, they begin to trust you. Simon Sinek, I'm going to leave you with this. He said, when people are financially invested, they want a return. When people are emotionally invested, they want to contribute. So when you can connect with people emotionally, they want to begin to contribute to your leadership and to the team's leadership. So your top talent is emotionally invested if you're leading well. It's your turn to nurture that investment with great leadership and experience a return on that investment from them. Hey, that's it for today's episode of the Lead Up Podcast. I hope you found some value in it. These are tactics and tools. If you go implement and practice them consistently, I promise you, you'll keep the people you can't afford to lose. If you want a deeper look, one of our employee engagement playbooks, just go to our website. Go to harborresources.com. We've got several free downloads for you there. I would love for you to share this episode with your colleagues that you know need this message that we've shared today. I'd love even more if you'd go and share a review on your favorite listening platform. If I can help you, reach out, Mike at harborresources.com. Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Lead Up Podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.